Hello, hello, folks. Okay, so we need to do some quick sound checks. If you can go to the questions and answers and say, hey, Nick, we can hear you, we can see you. And keep in mind, this is actually our second Zoom webinar after 15 years of using GoToWebinar every 2 weeks. We're trying something different. So, sounds like you guys can hear us. Okay, let's do a round here. Jake, can we hear you?
Yeah, test. You guys hear me okay?
Jake is loud and clear. Laura?
Perfect.
Hey, good afternoon.
Perfect. Okay, so we got almost 600 people signed up for today, and we did note that quite a few people are here for the first time to an exclusive webinar. So you are now part of a tradition for being a first timer, and you got to go to that questions box and you have to introduce yourself. We won't haze you. We just want to know who you are. What's your name? What company are you calling in from? Just want to welcome you. And we have a webinar every 2 weeks, like I said, for 15 years. So plenty of opportunities to meet you again. So let us know who you are, what company, and it also helps us because we're going to explain some concepts today. If we know who you are, then we can explain it in a way that might be a little bit more helpful to you. So who's going to be the first to introduce themselves? Got Jacob from Dom 360 in Greenville, South Carolina. Happy to be here and attend a webinar for the first time. Hello, Jacob. Welcome. All right. Anyone else here for the first time? By the way, we'll get started in just a moment, guys. We always get started at 2:02, but because it's Zoom for the second time, we know people are just gonna have a few misfires trying to load that up. So give just a few extra moments. Virtually every second, someone else is joining in right now. So we got Ron Tagger, owner of Garden Life Stores. That sounds amazing. Caters to the UK. Got Sana from Glasgow, Click to Convert. Looking forward to this. Patrick Jones, an e-commerce manager for race-winning brands, family of brands on the performance automotive space. Love that industry. No chat box on mobile. XD. Gabby from PA Digital Marketing. Marketing specialist for POS Supply Solutions. I know POS Supply. It's Stephen, right? Out of Danvers, Massachusetts. Awesome. Well, let's see if there's anyone else here. Got John as e-com manager for ITC Inc., Grand Rapids. By the way, folks, good thing we just waited a few moments. I increased our attendance rate by about 50% in the last 60 seconds. So good that we waited just a tiny bit, but everyone who's going to be here is here now. So why don't we go ahead and get started? If you guys have any problems with audio, video, whatever, I'll try to prompt to see if it's happening across other people. If not, then it might just be on your end, but excited to jump in. So why do we even have this presentation today? Everyone's using PMax. You've got to, you better. And for quite a bit of users and agencies that are using it, we just thought that there wasn't enough exploration, understanding of kind of the pillars and the controls. And we thought it'd be great to start developing a deeper science and discussion on how to use the flexibility and the power of PMax as opposed to just using PMax. So that's what we're talking about today. We're exclusive. We've been around since '97. Performance agency focused on e-com. Most of our clients are established or emerging. And here's a handful of our clients. We do focus on about 15 different channels. So like a good holistic agency, we make sure that if we manage a particular channel like Google Ads, the people doing that work, are 45 hours in that platform every week for their entire career. They know the platform inside out. So we have specialization. We also treat all the platforms as one. We have a different philosophy there where we found a way to connect all the data from every platform and have a team of strategists who come up with strategies that are absolutely cross-channel as if everything was part of one, which has been very helpful, and a technology team that synthesizes all the data across those channels and layers in some meta layers so you can actually have those strategies, execute, and report on them. My name is Nick Rajpal. I've been here for 15 years. I'm the VP of Marketing Sciences. I lead the strategy team. I developed all of our solutions when I joined 15 years ago and started to build up our service side from project-based to services. Did a lot of the hiring and building our workflows, and we have a fantastic large team now. And I'm also the face of the company and do these webinars every 2 weeks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Peterson, the Director of Product Ads here at Exclusive. Joined in 2021, and wow, what an amazing couple of years it's been, and learning PMax and enjoying Performance Max across the way. A lot of experience coming from a sports equipment company, an eyewear company, then worked with USA Today and Gannett, and now I'm here joining this amazing group of people, and so excited to talk PMax today.
Hey everyone, I am your special guest of the day. My name is Jake Conley. I'm an agency development manager at Google, so I lead the Exclusive and Google partnership. I've been working in the media and advertising space a little over 10 years. I was at Horizon, so I have a lot of experience on the agency side. Did some brand strategy as well as media buying there, and then went over to Pandora for about 5 years, working in account management, agency development. And I've been at Google for 2 years. And my tenure here has been specialized in agency growth and development. I'm excited to be here today. Thanks to the Exclusive team for inviting me.
Thank you, Jake. We had a few other people say hello as well. We got Jeff McRitchie from Buy Right Beauty. Jeff, did you work at My Bindings before this? Curious. 'Cause there's another Jeff McRitchie we've also worked with in the past. So, Laura, can you kind of, from the perspective of someone who's been so involved in Performance Max, can you kind of tell the audience a little bit about why we actually do really love this ad format?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years coming, right? We got introduced to Performance Max about November of 2021, tested a lot, and then we're really thrown into it last year when we had the migrations from Smart Shopping. And of course, we're always a little weary with change, but right out of the gate, really saw some incredible performance metrics and just so much opportunity on surfaces that Smart Shopping couldn't explore. And as we know, through COVID and everything else going on, the experience and our journeys as a user through purchasing and buying has changed and just continues to evolve, and we're really seeing Performance Max evolve with that journey and allow us to capture those audiences at the right time with these products and additional assets that we're able to give it. So again, just really evolving with the user allows us to be just so forward thinking and focus a lot more on the strategy rather than just having to continually pull manual levers. So just kind of a look back on what Performance Max is on a high level. It's a goal-based campaign type. If you have a goal, whether that's store visit, e-commerce sales, whatever that may be, Performance Max is going to do everything in its power to capitalize on that goal. It's finding the users at the right place, at the right time. As we said, it's evolving on those surfaces, leveraging those different asset types to show the right ad to the right person, and serving on those multiple channels. So it is still serving on those traditional shopping ad surfaces, but now also bringing in text ads. That was something Smart Shopping couldn't do, leveraging display and also video content and placements. It's serving again on those search placements, discovery, Gmail, some of those traditional placements that we've seen with dynamic remarketing. And again, really keeping that standard shopping in mind with those inventory feeds. So a goal-based campaign. And one of the coolest things is it's tapping into Google's AI. And we're able to feed the Performance Max campaigns custom signals to guide it in the right direction. But there's a lot going on in the background and so much, again, evolving so quickly that even if we were pulling those manual levers all day and working 24 hours, there's no way that we could keep up with the journey of every single user. And this has really allowed us to power Google with all of those assets, those right audience signals, and guide it again to show that ad at the right time when that user is ready to actually pull the lever and make that purchase. And here's some just really cool metrics
Laura, there's a few people that are just saying the audio is kind of like waving in out a little bit. Just letting you know about that. And I, by the way, shout out, hey Jeff, I'm so glad you said yes. It's been a long time. Good to see you. And Doug DeGay, thank you for mentioning about the audio as well. And Doug, I remember you from 10 plus years ago. Hope you're doing well, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the call out on the audio. If you're in Michigan, I think one of you were, there's some bad storms up here, so that might be messing with things, the thunder's interfering, but I'll definitely work to project and we'll get through both storms of technical and outside. So as a recap, again, leveraging and harnessing Google's AI paired with the assets that we feed these campaigns and those unique custom audience signals, again, allows us to find that user at the right time, at the right place, and really test and see what's working and where Google is guiding these campaigns. So just looking at some performance, here's an example from one of our clients, a furniture and home decor client. And they were one that we helped get in right whenever smart shopping was evolving into Performance Max, and continuing investment here as we saw that performance now year over year have almost completely invested in Performance Max. And from that, seeing conversion value up 311%, return on ad spend up 16%. And again, as we evolve and learn those best practices, baking that into this account so we can continue to scale and see that incrementality. And a really cool feature that we have here at Exclusive is our Performance Max reporting. What this allows us to do is tap into those Google signals and get this data that shows us where those ads are serving. It helps us understand that full picture and see maybe where we want to bake in more additional assets. Where are those ad dollars going, and understand that true investment. So this is something that we've been really excited to bring to our reporting, and it's available in our dashboard internally and also on a client-facing view. So again, this has really allowed us to take these strategic discussions to the next level, understand again where those investment dollars are going and what that breakout is looking like in terms of what surfaces these ads are actually showing on. So here we can see just in an example, the blue is those standard shopping ads placements, the green is the text and display placements, and the orange is those video placements. And just some fascinating observations as we move forward, some things that we weren't sure if we'd have visibility to or how this would shake out as we got introduced to Performance Max. But yes, you can ensure visibility for specific inventory like new releases, like inventory that maybe you have an abundance of in a warehouse that we need to spotlight on. There are ways to do that within this campaign type. Data feed custom labels have never been more relevant. These are offering us so much opportunity in segmenting campaigns and asset groups, and audience signals are such a key to guiding these campaigns to that most relevant user. Again, Google has so much harnessed behind the scenes, but we need to help guide it in the right direction, and giving it those custom signals is allowing us to say, hey, this is the type of user you should be going after. Let's really ramp things up.
Well, I can launch the poll if you want to kind of guide people on the 4 challenges here that we wanted to just see what people are dealing with.
Yeah, definitely want to know, are you experiencing any challenges like defining that goal? What is that goal? What should that goal be for this campaign? Or what should those different goals look like for multiple campaigns? Are you having difficulty building robust asset groups? Where do I start? How many images should I have? What should the differences in those text assets look like? What should the goal be of that asset group? Understanding that PMax data, are you not sure quite where to go, and understanding, again, where it's serving, if it's truly performing towards that goal, seeing the type of listing groups that are performing versus the asset group performance, and targeting and expanding those audience signals. Are you testing those audience signals? Are you inputting your own custom data, that first party data? Are you defining those different buckets and testing audience signals between asset groups, or has that been a bit of a challenge? We'd love to know. And these are definitely things that we will be exploring.
Let me go ahead. I'm going to end this poll in just a second here. 3, 2, 1. Let's just see where everyone's at. I can't
Yeah.
believe two of them are actually tied.
Really?
Understanding PMax performance data and targeting expanding audience signals and reach. That's fantastic because that's going to be such a good crux of this webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe we got a tie.
Yeah. Interesting on the defining a goal side. I wonder whether knowing the flexibility there makes people question whether they really do know the goal that they should be using. So this is
Yeah.
really great. Arvinder just asked a question: how do you get the breakdown of shopping versus display versus video, etc.? We're pulling straight from Google's API into our Business Insights dashboard system, and we just created a dashboard that we thought was a good representation, just breaking it out by month, which shows the ongoing redistribution trends. But the data is there in Google's API, not in Google's interface. Oh, Matthew just asked the same question. If you don't mind me asking, how are you breaking PMax down into channel delivery search video percentage? Yeah, it's it's in our proprietary reporting system, but there are a few things online you can find of people who have been trying to use that API data in different ways. But we just made a simple one for ourselves, which has been really helpful for clients.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Can you guys see my screen again? Or is it not just showing the poll anymore?
It looks good for me.
Okay, great. So just wanted to kind of bring up the way we think about everything. Every time we explore and enhance our channel strategies and develop client strategies, we always try to ground ourselves in basically, let's put these glasses on and look at things this way. And the glasses that we put on are a framework. And we say, essentially, if we are going to put together a plan for any particular channel, any particular client, we have to ask ourselves some questions about what the outcomes are, the desired outcomes. And we do know that pretty much any great marketing plan from all of history and all the great plans in the future, every platform that is ever built by, teams of people who jump from one company to another, it all starts to look very similar because we all know that marketing is supposed to increase awareness, get you in front of people who want to buy from your market, stay in front of people until they buy. That's conversion. So awareness, consideration, conversion, get past customers to buy again. That's loyalty. And ask past customers for likes and shares and reviews. And every business should have a strategy that carefully thinks through, how much you're supposed to invest in each of these things, what the return should be, and how that kind of balances out to maybe a marketing efficiency ratio. We simplified it for ourselves by saying, well, if we're in any channel and we are focusing this activity on awareness or this on conversion, let's just tag a campaign. And through a tagging system, we'll be able to see all the investment across all clients broken down by the 5 desired outcomes. That's actually easy. The tricky part is trying to figure out, well, what do we actually do for our client? Where should we invest? We identified this concept where sometimes your customer needs to know a lot about your brand. Like if they search for your category and you show up and they've never heard your brand before, they're just not going to buy. And that happens in matters of like life and death, driving a car, life insurance, or performance like electronics. But for the other part of the internet, you've got people who want to buy in a category, they start searching and they're open to anyone who shows up, as long as you show up. For that group, the search-based journey, your entire business is focused on showing up. Because if you show up when people have intent, then you're going to keep growing. And the brand-based journey, your entire business is based on how many people know about me for when it actually matters. That's a brand-based journey. Your entire marketing strategy is predicated on this opening move. There's only a few things you need to figure out after that. So to ask you to simplify in your own minds what journey you might take, and we're going to keep bringing up this journey typing and VAC throughout the rest of our presentation because, again, these are the glasses we put on to look at marketing. So just ask a poll of everyone. If you had to think through whether your business is such that you could show up when someone types in a keyword on Google and they'd be open to buying from you, then you're a search-based journey. If pretty much no one's going to buy unless they know the brand because of your price point, that's high fashion, because it's novelty, or because it's life and death, or because it's in electronics, then the onus is on your marketing team to keep building a lot of awareness. I'm going to close this out in 3, 2. You guys are answering it at such a record pace here. So 3, 2, 1. First of all, absolutely no surprise here. If we were doing a partnership presentation with Yotpo or with Klaviyo, where there's this huge brand affinity, dramatically high customer lifetime value, 70% of the people would say they're brand-based journeys. Where we're talking Google Ads, we're talking Pinterest, SEO, 70% are search-based. This is exactly a facsimile of our client mix as well. This is fantastic, guys. Thank you for sharing that. And nice to ask yourself the question because now you got to go back to your entire playbook and see whether you got it right. But once you figure this stuff out, now we can start to organize our performance max, which is very much focused on consideration, by the way. Almost everything starts with if someone has an intent to buy, let's show up with a shopping ad. Maybe we'll stick with them until they finally buy, so there's some conversion. Maybe some of those individuals buy again, so there's loyalty. There's not a lot of awareness, but it starts to give you a rubric, again, a pair of glasses to put on when planning things, to think through, am I choosing the right intent signals? Should I separate my past customers from new? How can I organize those customer lists maybe into segments? How can I focus on combining something that requires awareness, maybe combine it with discovery ads, etc. And then also the messaging. What is going to pull people down from one desired outcome to the next? Which gets us to the controls that we actually have.
All right, cool, my turn. So Nick, Laura, you guys have presented some really good information so far. One thing that Laura, that you said that is really resonating with me is PMax taps into Google's AI and it taps into the full power of Google's AI. But like every AI property that exists right now, every AI technology, the output's only as good as the input. And what we're going to focus on today is really the 3 places where that input can be customized, where it can be built in a different way to actually give you an advantage within your PMax campaigns. And what we're going to focus on is the structure, campaign structure, the assets, and the signals. And that's really what's going to guide your PMax strategy. And in between our slides, we'll talk through, the exclusive advantage here and how exclusive sets themselves apart when helping to the clients determine their PMax strategy. So kicking it off with structure, and if we go into the next slide here, like I mentioned, PMax uses Google's full AI power. It uses all of Google's inventory to find the right user at the right time with the right message that's most likely to drive a conversion based on the goals that you have in place. And when that comes to actually structuring the campaigns, there's 2 schools of thought. One is less campaigns and more asset groups. That's ideal if there's a common goal. For instance, there's an overarching ROAS goal. If your products have similar margins, if you have different products that might have the same goal, the same audience. But then there's a second school of thought, which is actually segmenting and breaking out campaigns for unique situations where that makes sense. And if you go to the next slide here, the very first thing that you're going to do within your Performance Max campaigns is make sure that you're optimizing and picking the right goal for your business objective. So you can see under here, there is a ton of goals that we can optimize towards. It's super important to pick the one that aligns best to your business objective, because that's what the entire campaign relies on. So let's say you're doing online sales and online purchases is your conversion goal. PMax is going to train the algorithm and train the AI to focus on optimizing towards online purchases. So it's not going to think about add to cart. It's not going to think about subscription. It is going to think about that end purchase. And similarly, if you have an offline sales goal and you're looking for store visits, PMax is going to try and target those people in the right time where they're most likely to visit your physical locations. And that's what it's going to use for all of the optimization power. I saw a question in the chat about hotels. What's not listed on here, but we actually do have, is PMax for travel goals. That's obviously a whole different discussion, but that's focused around hotel bookings and getting people in the door. You know, another thing that I'd like to call out here is around new customer acquisition. You know, I think this is a really powerful one if you're trying to acquire new customers, if you're trying to branch out from, you know, repeat purchases and actually gain these customers who have never interacted with your brand before. You know, PMax really offers you a way to do basically any of your conversion goals. And if you
The
go to the
question,
next,
we have
yeah.
Patrick. Patrick said slides aren't changing as we proceed to the next slide here. Patrick, just let us know if you can now see campaign structure best practices side by side with create multiple Performance Max campaigns in case of, if not, then you may just need to reboot Teams.
Yeah, they're changing for me. So if they don't seem to be working for the participants on the Zoom, definitely just drop it into the Q&A. And I'm going to keep going in the interim, just in the.
It's fixed. He said
okay.
Things are perfect now.
Okay, perfect. So like I said, you want to structure your campaigns according to your goals. And this means either one campaign where you might have multiple conversion goals that are combined into one Performance Max campaign. This would be instances where you might have shared budget across goals, where you're looking to maximize overall performance against, you know, one or two conversion goals. And the way that you can differentiate within those is by creating multiple asset groups and multiple audience signals, so that you're grouping and putting together similar assets that can serve within, you know, very similar sets, themes, and then creating multiple asset groups to resonate with the specific audiences that you have in there. The second way you can do things is within segmentation. And there's a ton of ways that you can segment PMax campaigns. We'll go through a few examples that I think are really cool, but campaign segmentation can be used for a number of things. So if you think about different marketing objectives, if you think about differentiating products by margin, by profitability, inventory management, locations, languages, you know, really anywhere that you would need these to be segmented into different campaigns, there's a way to do that. And, you know, you can do things like separating the campaigns, using advanced feed strategies, custom labels, feed rules, as well as just putting together these separate campaigns. So let's go over two examples right now that I think are really interesting. You know, this is a good one around profitability targets. So if you're looking here across the matrix there, these are 5 different campaigns that are broken down by different things that the company sells that have separate profit margins. And because they have separate profit margins, the ROAS targets would never be the same for these. So what we've done here is separated each product group into its own campaign and set different ROAS targets for each. So you have 5 separate campaigns, each of which is driving a sufficient conversion volume to actually train the algorithm to teach it and to optimize. And then you're going from, you know, the highest margin categories, which have the lowest ROAS because you have the lowest, you know, profitability point there, to the lowest margin categories where you're going to need a higher ROAS. And if you're thinking about that, you know, look at accessories here. You're aiming for a ROAS of 1,000% versus footwear. That might be because you sell more footwear, you have more on hand. It might be you just have a lower cost to make them, whereas accessories cost more. You know, any number of things that happen in the back end of your business, we can segment and actually break out to really set you up for success, thinking about ROAS targets here. And, you know, if you think about something like shoes and apparel, you know, you might have separate profit margins there. Therefore, you have different ROAS targets. And what you're going to do is actually separate these out. And then you're going to build your asset groups, your signals into each of these specifically to target these products. On the next slide, we can go into another example here. This is a really cool one around new releases. You know, when you have a product launch, the most important thing is to get in front of customers and get them thinking about that product. You'll see here, we've broken this out from new releases, high margin categories, and everything else. This way is slightly different than the last example, where we're not actually bucketing by what the product is, but we're bucketing by the margin or where it sits within the product cycle. So for new releases in this example, you're setting the ROAS as low as possible. That's going to drive as much visibility as you can think of. And the reason for that is that by setting a lower ROAS, you're actually allowing the campaign to reach more people, because it's not only going after those high value sales, it's going after people to let them know about the product, put it in their mind. But then what you do here to offset that ROAS is you actually decrease the budget for this line item. 10% of the budget on a 50% ROAS is going to go a lot further than, let's say, 30% of the budget on a 600% ROAS. So you're going to reach more people. And as you move this product through the product cycle, you can start to raise that ROAS and in turn also raise the budget. In the middle here, you'll see these are high margin categories. So if you're thinking about a collective group of items that have, an average margin where you need a 300% ROAS to achieve profitability, this is where the majority of your budget will sit. This is ensuring that products with high margin sell as much as possible while not setting your goal too high to eliminate the opportunity to sell a lot of these products. And then the last piece, this might be everything that has a high margin, that does not have a higher margin. And this is really just to give flexibility within, the smart shopping, within the search pieces. This is to drive kind of those lowest funnel actions while also achieving a high level of profitability. And this is where you're going to put about 30% of your budget in this specific example. Again, this is just 2 examples of the types of segmentation that can be done within Performance Max. The possibilities are essentially endless here. But one thing that's really cool is around the data feeds and custom labels. And if we go to the next slide here, I can kick it over to Laura to talk a little bit about how exclusive things.
And just real quick, we had a few questions here, Gabrielle and David. Like, will I get a copy of the PowerPoint? Will it be recorded? Yes, everyone's going to get a copy of the PowerPoint. Everyone's going to get a copy of the recording as well. And thank you, Jake, for covering the new releases side. I think a lot of people I talk to, what their Performance Max challenge is they're not getting products cycled into the rotation. And to set the parameters, as you just suggested, can kind of encourage Google to go ahead and throw new products into the mix. Really smart.
Yeah, exactly. And enter custom labels. And this is what gets me so excited, because there's so many different opportunities with them. And I think this is a great example here. Before going into custom labels, definitely with your data feed, you just want to make sure that it's as robust as it can be. Again, we're trying to give Google as much information about this item as possible. We want to make sure all that's correct. Your brand availability, product type, description. Let's make sure those are nailed down. Then let's really harness that custom label. I think this is oftentimes something that's ignored. And if you're not leveraging all of your custom labels, you should be. This is your sign. And a way you could be doing that is by baking in that margin breakdown, like Jake was mentioning. You can assign those labels, assign a high margin label to that inventory. And what that's going to allow you to do is then make those segmentations within these campaigns easily. You won't have to go item ID by item ID. Instead, you just navigate to new asset group, listing groups, custom label 1. And I know that all of the inventory being funneled through there is considered a high margin to my standards. If I had to talk about one of my favorite parts of exclusive, it'd definitely be our feeds team. I think they're like Batman, where you don't always see them, but when you need them, they're there and they save the day. They are amazing. And there's some really, really cool capabilities that we have, like the smart feeds functionality, which can pair with that margin capability. So what they're able to do is actually tap into your data, like Google Analytics, and say, hey, I want to pull like my top 25 sellers based on the past 60 days worth of data and make sure that I'm bidding more aggressively on those items. We can do that. Our feeds team can do that. They can bake in that logic and that label, so then we can make sure we're allocating that inventory to the right campaign. So again, really, really cool capabilities there in ways that we can make sure that we're bidding the right way with the right goal on the right inventory. And Jake, on that note, let's hear about some of the opportunities with the assets within these campaigns.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Laura. And you just heard Laura talk a lot about feed hygiene. I think hygiene is something that you'll hear a lot of throughout this presentation, whether it's asset coverage, business goals, or feeds. So let's talk a little bit about assets and asset coverage. So the more assets that an asset group has, the more surfaces it'll be eligible to show ads. And what you want to make sure here is that you have text, images, video content, making sure that's maximized, making sure it's being consistently updated. You're removing low performers, adding high performers, and then you're also leveraging Google's tools. A lot of what we hear, especially when it comes to the video within PMax, is we don't have a creative team to develop a video asset. And while Google can do an auto-generated asset for you, we find performance is significantly higher if you have a manually uploaded video. And we have tools within the Google Ads interface where you can actually build those high quality assets. It's all templatized. It's based on images and stock images that are free for you to use. The royalties are already taken care of, as well as music beds. And really, you can make a high quality video asset in a matter of minutes here. If you go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about, why does this matter, right? Well, we mentioned it earlier. Performance Max runs on every piece of Google inventory. And what does that mean? That means that you need a slew of assets to make sure that you're maximizing your visibility on all of these screens. So if you think about shopping, search, Gmail, YouTube, discovery, display, maps, those are all going to use different types of creative, and they should use different types of creative, right? So what you want to do is ensure that you have proper asset coverage, and that's going to provide benefits, several benefits for the advertisers. You want to make sure you have the right asset types, the right sizes, the right ratios. For example, YouTube, you might be running in shorts, which requires a vertical video. You might be running in the up next feed, or you might be running in a pre-roll spot. All of those are using a different type of video asset and sizing. And you want to make sure you have all of that. The same goes for display, the same goes for Gmail, the same goes for search. Making sure that you have enough assets so that the system can go in, it can test different combinations, you can unlock that inventory, and then it'll strengthen the machine learning and it'll help future-proof your campaign performance. So the machine learning is leveraging the assets to create numerous combinations and then determine what is the optimal creative mix to serve to this user at this time that will have the highest chance of generating a conversion. And this happens through the machine learning, and this happens through Google's constant testing. So, as new ad formats become available, they get put into Performance Max. So it's super important to make sure that your creatives are up to date, they're following best practices, and that you're constantly optimizing them. You want to make sure that things don't go stale within your creative in particular. And if you go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about, why does that matter from a data standpoint? We've seen that proper creative asset coverage is a pure boost to performance. So Google's found that adding a video asset to Performance Max campaigns drives a 12% increase in conversion, and having those diversified assets, so horizontal, vertical, and square video assets, actually drives a 20% increase in conversions as compared to campaigns that either use the auto-generated video or only horizontal video. And then if you go to the next slide here, this is a eyesore of a chart for sure, of what assets do we actually need. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see here that the best practice is to have a myriad of resources for each place that Performance Max can run. And that's super important, again, just to make sure that you are maximizing your creative opportunity and you're providing the system with as many chances as possible to really drive this home. And to talk a little more about the exclusive piece, I'm going to kick it back to Laura.
Yeah, Jake, I love the conversation around future proofing, because I think that's exactly where PMax is going. It's just so future oriented and chasing that journey. And again, the more we can give it, the more we can make sure that what we're feeding it is refreshed, the better chance we have at winning with that that future audience. So maximizing your available creative is such a critical conversation. And this is something our specialists really have harnessed in understanding what type of creative you should have. What does that matching look like to those asset groups? We talk about having multiple asset groups per campaign. Well, now we're thinking we need to match the right assets to those asset groups. We need to make sure that we are aligning that imagery, that video content, that text content, and the right inventory to ensure that once PMax takes the reins, all of that is cohesive in that messaging that we want to reach to that user. So it's been really exciting to see those come together. And again, I think this is somewhere that Exclusive has really become an expert in that guidance. And then Google continuing to evolve the reporting that we can see within the platform helps us understand which asset groups are reaching that excellent status, what's working. We've taken those learnings and we can continue to iterate to the clients, which is just, again, a great way to ensure that we are ready for the future and those future customers.
Yeah, Laura, I think that's a really great point. And if there's one thing that I've learned from my time at Google, it's that the only constant is change.
Right.
And to truly succeed on the Google platforms, you really need to be nimble and dynamic. And I think that the tools and the thought that Exclusive gives to their clients really does put you in a good position to get ahead of those changes that are coming and be on top of them, becoming experts before you have to be. Okay, cool. So the last piece here is on signals. And when we say signals, what we're talking about is audience signals to help guide the marketing and make sure that you're reaching the right user. You can start a Performance Max campaign with no audience signals and just allow Google to go out and learn who the customer is, but you're going to speed up that learning period and train the algorithm and the AI way better by using audience signals. And audience signals is an exciting feature of PMax. It's unique to PMax. It provides the foundation to steer the automation closer to your marketing goals. And the way it does this is through using things like proprietary audience and demographic segments, as well as propensity segments. So you can see down here, audience signals is built to help advertisers speed up campaign learning periods while also steering automation with the best of Google's automated targeting technology. And something that's really cool to call out about PMax is the audience segments that you put in there is not actually your targeting segments, it's a guide. So the system is looking at those and saying, okay, this is what a converting customer looks like. I'm gonna now go out and find 1 million people who resemble that customer and who I think are going to also convert. And when you add that with all the other automation here, it's super powerful. So if you go to the next slide here, what we're talking about here is what I just mentioned, right? It's using the power of Google AI powered targeting as well as your own audience signals. So it's built to help speed up campaign learning periods while also providing those inputs to get the best output out of Performance Max. And when we look at the next slide about what audience signals are available, you can do custom segments. So if you think about what have people been searching for, what websites, what apps have they been visiting, remarketing and customer match lists, so using first-party data. And then if none of that exists for you, you can use things like Google Audiences, so thinking about pre-built affinity audiences, detailed demographics in market, and then you can do things like demographics as well as similar segments. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's a lot of different targeting options. How should we start this off? The most powerful place to start with PMax is using first-party data and custom segments. And the reason for this is because you know your customer better than Google affinity segments and pre-built segments. So when you upload those customer match lists, it's super easy for the system to go in and say, okay, I pulled out 50 attributes about these people that seem to be a trend. I'm going to go and find people who look exactly like that. And then when it comes to custom segments, something that I found pretty interesting in my time in Google is the difference between declared data versus observed data. And someone might say, oh, I'm not a dog person. And then when we put in, searched for dog food, it actually indexes really high. And things that you might say that you do don't actually match what you do on the internet. And what we find is that those observed characteristics actually show a way more true picture of someone versus who they say they are. So those are the ones you should start with. As your campaign starts to learn, that's when you can start to expand into things like Google Audiences, into demographics, and into similar segments. And if we talk about why that matters, this to me is probably the most powerful slide that I can think of around targeting and audiences. And this is run from a Boston Consulting Group study that they did in correlation with Google. So this is third party. This is not Google grading its own homework. What they found in this study is that 90% of marketers say that using first party data is important in their digital marketing strategy. Only 30% are collecting and integrating that data across channels, and only 1% are using that data to deliver fully cross-channel experiences. And if you think about that, of course, there's challenges associated with achieving this, access to customer data, concerns around data sensitivity. But if you can tackle these issues, it does bring clear and notable benefits. And one of these is that there's an immense opportunity for enterprises to prioritize the data and the technology to support it. So what we found in this same study is marketers who effectively use first-party data generate 1.5 times the incremental revenue from a single ad placement. And those marketers also see a 2 times improvement in cost efficiency over companies who have limited data integrations. I don't know that I need to say anything else about that. It is an insanely powerful tool. It guides the algorithm exactly how you want to. It's one of the most important inputs into the AI to get the best output. And I'm going to pass it back to Laura, who can talk a little bit more about how Exclusive can help with that.
Yeah, when you see those numbers, it's just like, there's no question how critical having that data is. And, it's something our specialists are going to ask for, and it's something our tracking team can help support. We've gone through all of the work of building these robust asset groups. I mean, thinking about it, thinking how many you could have in a campaign, it's limitless, right? And if you've gone through all that work and the data is not there, or the tracking's not working, it's all for nothing. And we want to make sure that all of that we're feeding Google is correct, and the goals and the value that we're seeing is correct. And again, this is where our tracking team shines in making sure that that is tight and correct. And it all comes back in that visualization in our business insights dashboard. If we're looking at that, we're bringing and driving a strategic discussion. Let's make sure that we've powered it with all of that correct data so that we are giving these campaigns the best chance of success and the best chance of reaching those audiences. And Nick, so excited to pass it to you here, because hearing how we can bring all of this together, the signals, the assets, the feed, what else can we do here? What are the takeaways that now we'll be powered to have?
Yeah, it's we've covered so much, and I think you guys probably have a much better sense of like the deep detail that you get to control. And sometimes you get lost in those details. And we always want to kind of bring the conversation back to not just what is your strategy for Google Ads, but how does Google Ads work with every other channel that you're invested in? You are trying to stay in front of your customers wherever they go on the internet. And there's only a few different ways to do this that can be thoughtful, you can execute on, you can track. And one of the key ways is why a lot of us are even excited to be part of marketing in the first place, because as advertising turned into marketing, we started to explore the concept of target markets and message strategies, the segmentation. And only now are we seeing almost every platform that we're involved with really embrace segmentation. And we're going away from like this search-based world, which is all about keywords and stuff, to a little bit more customer-centric. And in PMax and Klaviyo, Amazon DSP, they all have these functions that they've developed to say, who's your segment? Who's segment one? What are the indicators? We can group people together, close them out, show the message that matters to them, show the products that matter to them, and then you can build for segment 2 and segment 3. It's not perfect. Every single one of the technologies has some shortcomings. If you're lucky, 40, 50% of all your advertising can be ascribed to a segment. So you can start to pull that data together and see, am I doing well with my segment? Is there growth potential? What messages do they like in the first place? And that's why we embrace segmentation, because it allows you to do so much more through simple things like tagging. By tagging segments at the campaign level, we can now go through a very simple process of saying, who are my segments? What do I want the customer journey to be? And then as we tag those campaigns across every channel, we can look at cross-channel metrics of how we're performing on that particular segment. We also get to make really big decisions for the business. Hey, segment 3 is doing really well. We're overperforming. By the way, we are only looking at a fraction of the market size. Let's start building that out. Your business can grow 200x. We're going to be doing a webinar in 4 weeks on 5 different D2C brands from HP to Jelly Belly. And one of the brands that we're going to talk about, we explored segments that were unexplored, underexplored, and we started to build them out. How much did that business grow? 200%. By finding the segments that overperformed that we could expand out on. So you always want to measure the size, the performance, eliminate the noise by controlling the signals and start testing and improving. And the way we've envisioned this is really simple, as it always should have been. You should be able to look across all your 15 channels you invest in and say, show me everything for segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. Hey, segment 1 is big enough that I'm testing message A versus B. Which one's winning across all my channels? Simple tagging, simple solution. Why do you do this? It's not just so you can look at your data separate. It's because at the end of the day, fundamentally, you're eventually going to get to the point where you realize the consumer behavior of each segment is probably a little different. The products they care about, the messages, etc. And in consumer behavior, we try to use the power of consumer behavior to get people to respond in ways that are much higher performance than if we treated everyone the same. So introduction. If you have a segment and your segment responds to your brand because it makes them feel good about themselves, the media assets that you're going to flood to this segment will be more competitive in nature. If the group is a little unsure, they need some social support, you're going to flood the media assets with reviews, user-generated content. If the group responds to discounts, you're going to flood those media assets with discounts. And if all people care about is more like engineering spec, I'm supposed to buy something that fits my 5-lug tire that's 20 inches deep, then you need to know that it fits perfectly. That's methodical. Now, as we go through developing a PMax strategy, maybe we have something like this, where got a client, they're a reseller of shoes, and they've basically got 3 segments. They've got these active runners. These people will buy. Then there's novices and there's discount buyers. And the active runners, we know they're going to keep buying and buy pretty premium. So our goals are going to be set about around maximizing like a high value customer lifetime value. Maybe our focus is more cost per acquisition based on something that's going to be 5 times greater in the customer lifetime value. The signals we're looking for are these people think about running all the time. They're running marathons. They're part of our customer list because they buy all the time. The products don't need to be cheap, high-end, high performance, totally different from our other groups. The assets are all going to be about engage your inner beast and go all in, right? And the VAC focus, you might want to start tackling on some discovery ads, some video reach that work in combination for the same segment to build awareness, because why not? These are active runners. Let them find out about you. They're worth a gold mine. And as you organize your segmentation, thinking through all these different things, then your novice runners are going to be totally different. They buy in season when they think about dieting on January 1st. They're new customers, they're not old customers. They might be one-time buyers, want to play off of high volume. It's social modality. They're trying to figure out what they should buy. So give them some help. It's just going to be considering buying, close them out. And discount buyers, because our margins are slim, focus on ROAS. We're thinking about people who've visited discount shoe retailers, that we should be focused on liquidation and get rid of those products we want to get rid of. The assets should be all about hyper flash sales. Everything's different, same business, trading three segments in very different ways. The power performance max count kind of comes to life when you start doing this. So we thought it'd be interesting to ask everyone really quickly, what modalities do you think you have in your segments? You might have 2 or 3 segments. Do you have competitive modalities in your mix? That's like all about just an aspirational personal aspiration. Spontaneous, people who just want to get a good deal. Methodical, people have done their research, they just need to get the right fit. Or social, people come here with lots of question marks looming over their heads, and you need to help them kind of hold their hand up that learning curve. You guys are answering very quickly. I'm going to close this out though in 3, 2, 1. I am so surprised by this. Methodical is the leading. 64% of you think that, and I think I understand. This is why Performance Max is tricky sometimes as well. Maybe there's a qualifier or two that someone has searched for, and that's why you're thinking my feed has to be right for those keywords. My structure has to be based and predicated on that mid-tail type of decision-making dynamic. Fantastic, really cool. 45% of you are trying to get people to buy maybe a premium price aspirationally. That's your Performance Max is going to perform so much better than Smart Shopping did. That's great. 30% of you say social. You got to start building that UGC. 18% of you are saying spontaneous. No one wants to give away sales, but hey, if it's going to give you 70% of your business, why not? Really cool. Thank you guys for sharing. And before we get to the questions, which there are many questions, I'm just going to ask everyone, do you want to have us take a crack at telling you what we would do for your business? Maybe we study your journey types, we study your competitors, what are their channel mixes? Of the 15 available channels, what are they doing? Hey, you've got some good ad spend in Google Ads. Let's take a look, get us access. We'll look under the hood and tell you what you're doing and juxtapose it against what you should be doing. We'll come up with a segmentation strategy, a tech strategy. We don't charge for any of this. This is for us to figure out with you what's going to be the killer partnership. What is the best marketing plan you could have right now going into Q4? And I'm going to give this another 3, 2, 1. Thank you, folks. And wow, yeah, this is awesome. 82% of you asked for a next step. Thank you, guys. Oh, no, I got my math wrong on that. I switched. 58%. Happy, self-qualified, love it. Okay, you guys see all the questions, by the way? You want to tackle a question or two each? Want to
Sure.
kind of ping pong?
Yeah, where do you want to start? Let's see. Sure, I'm seeing one. Ash asked, would love to know your input on product feed SEO optimizations, any specific practices. I think this definitely taps back to hygiene and seed hygiene and understanding that the more correct data you're powering Google with, the better decisions it's going to make in when and where to show that ad. So really starting with your title and description. Does this iterate what this product is? Does this best represent this item? If I have my cup and I've just told Google it's blue or not even blue, let's say like a faded blue-gray cup, that's not expressing everything that this cup can do. It is insulated. It has, adding those descriptive factors to allow Google to match that product to that correct search? Are you adding a product type? Do you have a sale price? Can this item be picked up locally? Are you enrolled in any promotions? Does it have a GTIN? If not, if you don't have that GTIN in there, you're now limiting yourself from product reviews. You're limiting yourself from price benchmarking tools within Google Merchant Center. Explore your feed and ensure that every attribute that that item is eligible for is filled. That would be my best advice from the start. And I think that's a great call out, Ash, to mention in SEO. There's definitely an SEO mindset with that data feed. And again, iterating all of those attributes and that text and that verbiage that's relevant to that inventory. I could go on for feeds forever.
I saw one in here from Arvinder, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. Any plans to introduce this UI into the Google interface? I assume that's talking about the reporting by channel. We hear all of the feedback from our clients around the reporting requests. There's a long roadmap of new features that are going to be rolling out. So I would say on this one, just keep an eye on product updates. As new features roll out within the UI, all of our partners will be notified of it, and you'll see it, all over the trades.
And Arvinder, one of our jobs as an agency is to try to stay one step ahead as well. So like anytime everyone has access to the same tools, the whole purpose of us being a middleman is trying to figure out how to create a competitive advantage that other people don't have access to. So there's always going to be great ideas that are created by agencies that Google works closely with them, and they will continue to put it onto their map, or they already had it on their map. But it's still our job to stay like 6 months ahead on some innovations so that we can give an edge. There's an anonymous attendee that said, can you use custom labels for new releases? And I think you answered that already, Laura, but specifically to that question of, custom labels 0 through 4, one of them could be new releases margin, the updating logic on top 25 in the last 60 days, which again, if you have a top seller campaign, go into your top seller campaign and see whether the 200 products that are top sellers are still top sellers. One of the biggest things that we get to do in the first 30 days of taking over an account from a lot of different agencies is that there is a top seller campaign, but it was created 2 years ago. It hasn't been looked at. That redistribution is just gold. It's absolute gold.
Yeah, you could name those custom labels whatever you wanted. You could put in any text. It's not a parameter that Google's looking to match the search with the item. It's for your segmentation purposes within the campaigns, the ad groups, the asset groups, whatever that may be, building those out, and again, being able to segment and say, yes, I want every product that I've labeled some sort of label and custom label for to be attributed to this campaign. So again, that verbiage, whatever you label it, can be up to you.
Jeff, you're asking, can Google figure out these modalities and target audiences segmentation themselves without a strategist on the client side? I'll answer half that question and then pass it to Jake. So in terms of modalities specifically, we haven't seen any platforms kind of commit to the modalities concept in general, even though the modalities concept was first created by the ancient Egyptians in 3000. It was codified by Hippocrates in humoral sciences in 560 BC. It's been around for 5,000 years, and it is the fundamental foundation of a 80-year-old science called consumer behavior. But that's why you have marketers. Marketers are supposed to be thinking through these things that the leading technology can then take those prompts. I think Jake said it so many times. You have to prompt the technologies the right way. We do need to think things through. Otherwise, any technology would create the next Coca-Cola and it would just beat Coca-Cola. You still have people staying ahead because of smart decisions and using some science behind it. What about, I know that target audiences and segmentation start to, over time, already move in that direction, even though you can activate them a little bit more aggressively. Jake, do you have an idea of like if Google is going to just keep optimizing towards the signals that they see, or do we always need to manually?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the modality piece is going to depend on the backend data that you're feeding into Google. And then, I think that goes a lot into the segmentation piece as well. So I don't know if there's a one size fits all answer for that, unfortunately.
Awesome. Any other questions you guys see that you can answer right away?
So Patrick asked about YouTube video assets being general versus specific content. Patrick, I think a lot of that would depend on what brand you work on and what your goals are, what you're selling. One way that you could use some of those specific assets is, if you're doing, I don't know if you're selling a consumer purchase product, but if you are, you can tie asset groups to specific product listings. Make sure that you're tying those maybe product shots to those specific products. Another thing is you can throw all of those videos in and rely on exclusive or your agency or your marketing team to then go through the reporting and see what's working, what's not working, and continue to optimize there. We've seen both be successful. It really just depends on the individual use case for your client. And then I can also answer Karen's question here. If you start running PMax campaigns, would it replace search ads? No, you should be running PMax in tandem with your other campaign types. There's a serving hierarchy about what will serve where. A lot of that is based off of ad rank. When it comes to search versus PMax, a lot of it's based on the keywords, whether it's an exact search or whether it thinks that the PMax campaign will perform better. And the way that I think about it is a lot of our advertisers ask for more control. By running PMax as kind of your catch-all and then running your channel specific campaigns, that's where you're going to be able to develop that sense of control. So no, you should be absolutely running them in tandem with each other.
Laura, do you have a few that you want to cover? Or?
Well, I think, Jake, you kind of covered Karen's additional question about testing on a smaller scale, without overlap, at least on the text ad side. You're not going to be stealing everything from those text campaigns that you're continuing to run. On a product ad side, you're looking to ensure that you're not overlapping to interrupt your current campaigns. So again, really leveraging product segmentation. Yeah, there are opportunities to test on a smaller scale with Performance Max. Again, just echoing back to make sure when you build these that you're giving them the best chance of success. And the best way to do that is making sure those asset groups are complete, that those assets are totally tightened up. You've got the images, you've got the video, you've got the text components, you have those audience signals robust and ready, and you have the product mix that really is echoed in what those assets are showing the users. So that would be my best advice with getting started.
Yeah, maybe we can all answer one more question. I'll answer, would you replace display campaigns with PMax? We did a webinar a few months ago, talked about the controls that you have in display. They are quite different from the controls you have for PMax or for discovery. Knowing the strong suit of each ad allows you to coordinate a little bit better. So it's definitely not a replacement for display, even though there's a display component to it. And your display is probably still going to be predicated more on trying to drive awareness if you're using it in the most effective way possible.
Yeah, I see Patrick's question. I don't think we answered this one. Should YouTube video assets only be general? We have a lot of specific content, but I hesitate to use application-specific content. I think this echoes back to aligning the asset group content to the user you're trying to reach and the inventory that you're displaying. If it is an inventory e-commerce-based Performance Max campaign, there is something to be said about having evergreen asset groups that can run year round and that do have that broader scope. But then, as Nick was mentioning, there are segments that are untapped. There are audiences that are untapped, and really owning a niche can be a great thing. If there is content in that specific content part of your video, it can definitely be a powerful tool. I think one of the best things about Performance Max is we could build out 200 asset groups, and Performance Max is going to identify the asset groups that are driving performance towards that goal. And that's where it's going to be investing. So there's no harm in building more, because the only thing you're doing is giving Google more to work with.
Awesome. Jake, last thoughts, last question.
Yeah, I saw one just come through from Manuel. Can I set 3 different ROAS in one campaign? If you have different ROAS targets across, let's say, your different products, you would want to break those into separate campaigns.
Thank you, folks, for joining. Jake, thank you for helping present so much detail. Laura, thank you for doing such great work with our Performance Max campaigns on our client side. We could tell these stories and actually have some conclusions that hopefully are unique for you folks. And thank you guys for taking time on a Wednesday to just join and listen and chat with us. And yeah, happy Wednesday, everyone. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.